Although pro fans are commonly known within the lash industry for their easy application, this doesn't mean that they are applied the exact same way as classic lashes. There's always a learning curve to any new service. So in this video, we're gonna run through exactly what to look for and how to apply your extension to the natural lash so that you can get the optimal retention from your pro fan set. Because if we're not applying that base properly, then you won't get the retention that you're looking for. And here's why. So when we work with classic lashes, you're not working with a diameter much thicker than that of the natural lash. But when you're working with pro fans or volume in general, you have a lot more lashes concentrated in that base area. And with that thicker base, you're not going to be able to see the natural lash as well from the top angle. So I'll walk you through a visual of this very briefly, but hear me out first. So if we're viewing from the top angle and we have that thick base, it's going to hide the natural lash. And if it hides the natural lash, then we automatically think as the artist, oh, perfect, I can tell that the base is flush with the natural lash because it absolutely looks that way. But here's the thing, if you looked from the side of that lash, you might notice that the base is lifted. And even if it is just slightly lifted, this could cause poor retention. Imagine if your client brushes through the lashes and the base is perfectly flush with the natural lash. Then there's a seamless transition and there's nothing for that mascara wand to hitch onto. But if you have a little lift in that bond, then when you brush the lashes, the brush will get caught on that little lift and it will pop the extension right off. And you'll probably think, pro fans don't have very good retention, but the only thing that you needed to do was just look from the side when you apply them. And this doesn't mean that you always forever have to view the lashes from the side when you're applying them. You will get comfortable after some time with the application. You'll get comfortable applying them and you'll just know the movement and the angles of your hands. But in the beginning, when you're working with them, until you know for sure that retention is absolutely not an issue, just make sure that you're always viewing the lash from the side. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So I'll quickly show you an example of what I mean here. So I've got my 12D fan and I'm gonna come on in, wrap around the natural lash right in the middle of the fan and lay it. So that appears to look perfect from the top angle, as you can see. But let me show you what that looks like from the side. So you see right here, although it looked perfect from the top angle, you can see that the base is slightly lifted. So let's take my tweezer and brush up. If you were brushing your extensions like that, if you were a client, the exact same thing would happen. So it's super important to make sure that that base is perfectly flush with the natural lash. So I'll show you an example of what it looks like when it is perfectly flush. I'm looking from the side when I'm applying. Let that cure for a second. Usually only about 2 seconds is necessary for curing when you're using bondage glue, which is our pro fan suggested glue. Okay, so you can see here that no matter what I do, the base doesn't lift. I'll even come to that. And that's why it's important to make sure that the base of the extension is perfectly flush with the natural lash, because they both look perfect from the top angle. So now I quickly want to run you guys through, I'm gonna use this one this time. Now I quickly want to run you guys through the different ways that you can apply the pro fan. So I just showed you. Now I'm going to show you how to apply the pro fan from the top and the bottom. So this is just a preference thing, whether you like to do it from the top or bottom, it's totally up to you. I'll just show you. So we can apply from the top, as you've already seen. So when I apply it from the top, I like to hold my tweezers underneath and without putting pressure, just gently gliding into the natural lash to kind of push it into the Pro Fan. Because when I'm doing this, I'm making sure that the base is getting pushed into the natural lash. So you can do that. Don't do it from the top angle because that's gonna do the exact opposite. It's gonna lift the base up. So you're only gonna wanna do that from underneath, and this is only for when you're applied on the top. And this also makes sure that you don't get your extension stuck to the pad, which is really nice. Now I'll show you that you can apply from the bottom as well. A lot of people prefer this method because they can push down on the extension afterwards. I'll show you. So I'm doing the opposite this time and pushing the natural lash into the Pro Fan as well. You don't even really have to do this. You can honestly just hold your fan and kind of pull it into the lash as well. But just be careful because the angle that you're pulling could separate that base as well. So just be cautious of that. I know a lot of people want to do that. But we really want to make sure that that base is perfectly flush with the natural lash. And it's all about angles. So I'll quickly show you that as well. I'm going to set up a couple more lashes on the sponge and I'm just going to get you to watch the angle that I come in on when I'm laying the fan. So I'll show you an example of what doesn't work and then an example of what does work. So I'm going to show you improper and proper movements and tilts of your tweezer that make all the difference when you're applying your extension. So let me quickly show you that subtle tilts of your tweezer make all the difference. So I'm not going to actually use any adhesive for this, but I'm just going to quickly show you. So I'm going to come in on an improper angle. So to me, from the top angle, this looks perfect. Like, it looks like a great bond, but I know that when I look from the side that that base is going to be lifted. Now, if I correct my hand movements ever so slightly to tilt a little bit more toward me and view from the side, then I get that perfectly flush bond. So again, I'm going to just show you that. It's so subtle, so it's really hard to see, but I'm just going to show you a couple times so that you can kind of see exactly what I'm saying. So again, my hand's tilted like this. My tweezer is pretty upright, a little bit tilted away from myself. But if I start tilting that a little bit more toward myself, instead of away like this, I'm going to go a little more toward myself. And look from the side when I'm applying, then I get a really nice bond. So I'll use glue for this example now. Again, coming in, I'm going to line it up, tilt my tweezers toward myself. And then lay the extension. And just like classic lashes, there's never any abrupt movements. You're going to let go very slowly and move your tweezers away from the lash, and then allow it the couple seconds that it needs to cure. So it's all in that tilt. And the answer is almost always tilting a little more towards yourself as opposed to a little more away from yourself. So if you want a visual, you're not going to stand your tweezers upright necessarily. I mean, maybe sometimes you will, depending on the shape of the eye and how your hand is placed on their face and stuff like that. But the solution is almost always tilting your tweezers a little bit more towards yourself. You're never going to be too close to yourself unless you're coming in on a inner corner or something like that. But for the most part, when you're laying the Pro Fan, the tweezers should be a little more tilted toward you.